Sometimes life has a way of shattering everything you thought was secure, only to lead you towards something far bigger than yourself. For Ben Carter, that collapse began with losing his job after 23 years at Denver Construction. One day he was a project manager in pressed shirts, a homeowner with a wife named Sarah and a 10-year-old son named Noah. The next he was unemployed, packing his life into the back of a rusty Ford pickup. The severance check vanished fast. Interviews turned into closed doors, and before long the mortgage dissolved into foreclosure notices. Sarah tried to hold on. She brewed stronger coffee and whispered encouragements. But the weight of unpaid bills broke more than their finances. It broke their marriage. Within weeks, divorce papers split their lives, and Ben's weekends became his only windows into fatherhood. Nights turned into stretches of sleeping in the truck with Noah curled up in the back seat, learning to ignore the rattle of the tailgate and the hollow look in his father's eyes. Meals became peanut butter sandwiches, and Noah's toys shrank to a sketchbook where he drew cabins, mountains, and a home where they could one day belong again. Then, on a dusty diner table in Leadville, fate whispered through a tiny classified ad. Mountain cabin, 1930s build, Cedar Ridge. Mature buyer only. $1 cash. Final sale. A single dollar for a cabin. It sounded like a scam or maybe a cruel joke. But when Ben called the number, a woman named Martha Henderson told him to show up with a dollar bill and sign the papers. Against all logic, against the fear of wasting their very last chance, he drove up into the mountains with Noah, hoping a crumbling shack could give them something to hold on to. Cedar Ridge was less a town and more a scatter of weathered buildings along the highway, but everyone seemed to know why Ben was there before he even asked. "You're the fool who bought the dollar cabin," one man said at the gas station. But Noah's face pressed to the truck window was full of excitement. The winding dirt road climbed through pine forests until they reached Martha's blue house with its crooked fence. Martha, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, handed them a hand-drawn map, a rusty key, and a sugar cookie for Noah. She warned, "That cabin's been empty a long time, but not forgotten. Samuel Whitmore built it, and he was a good man. If you're going to live there, honor him." With that, Ben signed the deed on parchment thick as cloth. The cabin itself stood in a clearing beside a murmuring creek, its stone walls weathered but strong, its windows dusty but expansive, its porch sagging yet proud. To Noah it was a fairy tale come alive. To Ben it was both hope and burden. They stepped inside to a single large room anchored by a towering stone fireplace. Dust motes shimmered in the light, and the air smelled of pine and thyme. That night, with little more than sandwiches and a can of peaches, they lit their first fire. Noah unrolled his sleeping bag, clutched his stuffed elephant, and whispered, "Dad, I like it here. It feels like home." For the first time in months, Ben's heart eased. This ruin, this gamble of $1 felt like it might just give them back a life. The days that followed became a rhythm of repair and discovery. They patched broken windows, swept decades of dust, and explored the property. Noah claimed the loft as his bedroom, marveling at mountain views that seemed to stretch forever. Then one afternoon, while tracing patterns in the fireplace stones, Noah pressed against one rock that shifted loose. Behind it lay a hidden cavity containing a bundle wrapped in oiled cloth. Inside, they found blueprints signed by S. Whitmore, 1937. But these weren't just ordinary plans. They revealed not only the cabin, but also underground chambers connected by tunnels. In faded ink, someone had scrawled words that sent shivers up Ben's spine. "For the children, 1938. That night, they spread the papers by firelight, marveling at the precision, the mechanical drawings, and the mysterious note. Why would an architect build secret chambers beneath a mountain cabin? The next morning, they carried the plans to the Cedar Ridge Library. Martha, the town's quiet historian, recognized them instantly. Her father, she revealed, had helped Samuel Whitmore lay the foundations. Samuel, she explained, wasn't just a builder he'd taken in orphans during the Depression, giving them shelter in the mountains. The hidden rooms had been sanctuaries, places of protection when men came asking questions. She even showed them Samuel's journal, filled with entries about children who laughed by the creek, cried in the night, and healed slowly in the mountain air. But as the journal progressed, fear seeped through its pages. Men from the county, threats, warnings to accelerate the underground chambers. The final entry spoke of danger closing in and a message. Look for the compass in the well. It will guide them to safety. The well stood half hidden by raspberry canes behind the cabin. Covered by old planks, it looked ordinary, but with Samuel's words echoing in their heads, Ben lowered the bucket. When it clanked against something solid, he hauled it up and found a leather-wrapped package. Inside lay a brass compass, still steady after nearly 90 years, and a map written in Samuel's hand. The map gave precise steps, from the well to a lightning-struck pine, to a flat boulder, to a marker stone. It was a treasure map. Noah counted each step with the precision of a young explorer. At the marker stone, Ben inserted the compass into a carved hole. With a grinding click, the stone shifted, revealing a hidden brass box. Inside were photographs of children at the cabin, letters of gratitude, and a letter from Samuel himself. He wrote that he'd hidden not money, but something far more powerful, an invention capable of saving countless lives, but also dangerous in the wrong hands. He feared he would be silenced for refusing to sell it. He left clues divided into 3 parts, waiting for people brave enough to continue his work. For Ben and Noah, the letter wasn't just a mystery, it was a mission. They followed the next set of instructions, unlocking a hollow log with a brass key that revealed a carved wooden box. Inside were more letters, a deed assigning the property to a trust for displaced children, and photographs proving the cabin had been a sanctuary. One photo even showed a young girl who resembled Martha Henderson's mother. The connection was clear. Samuel had saved her, and she'd guarded his secret for decades. The third clue led them to the ruins of another foundation on the property. At first, Ben thought it was just a shed or workshop, but Noah noticed photographs showing children with books and slates in what looked like stone walls different from the cabin's. Realization struck. This had been Samuel's schoolhouse. Searching the ruins, they uncovered a circle of stones hiding an underground chamber. Inside, preserved in oiled cloth, were dozens of books, scientific journals, and technical manuals. But at the chamber's heart sat a mechanical device, a brass and steel purifier with tubes and gears. Instructions engraved on a plate revealed its purpose: water purification system, patent pending 1937. Samuel had invented a way to filter dirty water into clean drinking water using natural materials and mechanical pressure. It was simple, durable, and decades ahead of its time. Noah's eyes widened as he realized this was why dangerous men had chased Samuel. He hadn't been building treasure for gold hunters. He'd been protecting an invention that could save millions. Alongside the machine lay Samuel's unfinished patent papers and a final note. This belongs not to me, but to the children of the world who thirst. On the chamber wall, carved into stone, were coordinates, the next clue, the final piece of Samuel's secret. The coordinates led Ben and Noah deep into the mountains, into a hidden valley where they discovered the ruins of a massive facility. Unlike the cabin or schoolhouse, this had been industrial, concrete foundations, steel reinforcements, and twisted metal suggesting violent destruction. A sign buried in leaves revealed its name: Whitmore Water Systems Research and Development. Samuel hadn't been content with just a prototype. He had built a factory to mass-produce his purifier. Inside a blasted vault, they found evidence of his last stand. Letters from humanitarian groups pleaded for help in Africa, Asia, and South America. But alongside them were letters from corporations and military contractors offering millions for exclusive rights. Samuel refused them all, insisting his invention would be free to those in need. One chilling letter threatened consequences if he continued resisting. His reply, paper-clipped to it, declared, "I choose to stand with the children of the world who die daily from preventable waterborne diseases. My invention will not be sold." Days later, he vanished. Ben and Noah stared at the scorched vault, realizing Samuel had likely been murdered for refusing to sell out. Yet his legacy had survived, hidden for nearly a century, waiting for them. Among the vault's scattered papers lay Samuel's final message: "If you are reading this, I am gone. The men who hunted me may destroy my body, but they cannot destroy my mission. Use what I've hidden not for profit, but for people." Ben's hands trembled as he read it aloud to Noah. They returned to the cabin carrying not just blueprints, photographs, and devices, but the weight of an unbroken promise. That night, by the same fireplace where Samuel once told stories to frightened orphans, Ben and Noah lit their fire. The shadows danced on stone walls carved with secrets of hope. Noah sketched their discoveries: the compass, the hidden chambers, the purifier. In the margins, he drew children playing around the cabin, children who hadn't arrived yet, but who Samuel's legacy had always been meant for. Ben realized the dollar cabin wasn't a gamble gone right. It was a sanctuary waiting for its guardians. He looked at his son, who'd carried the weight of homelessness without complaint, who'd uncovered mysteries with unshakable curiosity, and who now understood the difference between treasure and legacy. Samuel had chosen them, or fate had, and the responsibility was clear. By dawn, the cabin no longer felt like just 4 stone walls and a roof. It felt like destiny. Samuel's water purifier, his journals, and his schoolhouse of hidden books weren't relics of a forgotten man. They were tools for the future. Ben and Noah weren't simply survivors anymore. They were guardians of a legacy designed for the children. A sanctuary that once sheltered Depression-era orphans was ready to rise again, this time with the Carters as its keepers. For Noah, it meant filling the cabin with laughter, sketches, and dreams. For Ben, it meant redemption, a chance to transform failure into purpose. And for anyone listening now, it means remembering that sometimes the smallest choices, like spending a single dollar on a broken cabin, can lead to the most extraordinary outcomes. Because Samuel's greatest treasure wasn't his invention, or even the millions it could be worth, but the belief that hope multiplies when you share it. And now that hope had been passed on. So if you've been gripped by this story, don't let it end here. Hit that subscribe button, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, and tell me in the comments, what would you do if you stumbled into a legacy that could change the world?